Welcome back to Bull Sessions here on 680 KFEQ. You can email your questions or comments to bull@willcross.net. Once again, here's Randy Baker and agronomist Brad Law.
It's funny what goes on back behind the scenes here during commercial breaks, huh, Bradley?
Right.
Kurt's getting to see, too.
So what are we doing today? It's New Year's Eve. We're ready to party. And Randy already started.
No, I didn't. We're just having fun here.
But I thought you said I was driving home.
No.
I think he said you're driving us to the gas station because Randy wanted to pick something up at the gas station.
Oh, yeah.
No, Miles.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. You know, it's nice and cold out, so it'll stay cool.
Kurt, do you see how these guys pick on me?
I see this.
You do see this.
Oh.
That was a little taste of Kurt, who's coming up here in just a minute. We've got Bradley still got a couple more of his whatevers.
I've got my list of things we learned in 2016.
Focus on the Farmers coming up later. So we got a lot to do. So tell me, what's the rest that you learned?
Okay, I've got two little short things left. Okay.
Okay.
And this is a very important one that I learned.
I'm sure it is.
I have this ball. This little pink ball.
I hate that ball.
Okay, bouncing a small wall on the wall at the office is very therapeutic for me.
It drives me insane.
But it annoys the crap out of Randy, which makes it even more effective.
We're set in my office. We're talking about business, Bull Sessions business, whatever, and he's bouncing this ball continually off the wall. I've even took it away from him like a child and hid it.
And who chased it out into the road? The one time they had it, they dropped it, and it opened. The front door opened, and it went out into the highway, and somebody was going to run after it.
Well, another weak moment I had.
But I enjoy the ball. I think it's very therapeutic to help me think and everything. And the wife let me know about this one. Did you know that little marshmallows work as toy sheep in a 1/64 scale stock trailer for a 2-year-old?
No, I didn't, but I get it.
But
I can see that.
They don't work for mommy. They work for the 2-year-old, but they don't work for mommy. So if you can't get real toy sheep, the child will just use marshmallows, and
they're cheap.
And he'll haul them around, and then
cheap sheep.
And then he'll forget about them in the stock trailer.
Only at your house, Bradley.
Oh, it's always something. But we've got somebody important here today.
Let's do.
In studio.
Let's do.
We have a guy that, Kurt Grimm, he's got NutraDrip irrigation systems.
Yes, Kurt Grimm, not Grimm.
Grimm. Okay. He is out by Hiawatha, and he's going to kind of help us understand stuff about irrigation, you know, because it's not prominent in Gentry County, but, you know, there's areas around, some of our guys in Nebraska, out there in Kansas, there's some in central Missouri, that there's some irrigation around, and maybe we could do more in some places because drip's different than a center pivot, and he's going to...
like when we was talking about pattern tiling and different kinds of tiling, just because we live in Missouri don't mean we can't do these things.
Well, we at least need to be aware of them and then make educated decisions and, you know, look at them.
Educated is the key word there, Bradley.
Okay, so maybe they need to go somewhere else to get educated, but
no,
hey, we're
here. Right here, and Kurt is educated.
Okay.
Kurt, thank you for coming to our show today.
Thank you.
You betcha. Brad, what was the question?
I'll start off.
Most bothering you?
My is, well, first we ought to say, what is drip irrigation?
Yeah.
So the drip irrigation we're talking about is a subsurface tape that's buried under the ground, approximately 16 inches deep, every 60 inches. So in other words, the whole field is being covered with irrigation underneath the ground. It's a permanent system. You don't see anything on top of the ground, so there's no evaporation, there's no wind loss, and we're extremely efficient with water. And when you really think about it, you can envision an IV for the plants underneath the ground, and we're putting water and fertilizer right into the roots.
How deep was it again?
14 to 16 inches is the sweet spot.
14 to 16, and you're doing 60-inch centers. That was correct?
That's correct.
That's pretty neat. Okay, so let's say you can get that in. You could have that installed. well, how much water are we going to need from like a well? If somebody like me had a well on a property, what sort of supply would they need?
So we like to see, ideally, we'd like to see 5 gallon per minute per acre. We've installed systems as low as 1 gallon per minute per acre, but the producer has to understand at the 5 gallon per minute per acre rate, we can put an inch of water on every 4 days.
An inch of water every 4 days.
If we only have 1 gallon per minute per acre, it's going to take 20 days to put an inch of water out. So that won't take care of us in a year like 2012.
Right.
It's just going to be a Band-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
But it would still allow us to fertigate and to apply the nutrients when we need to. So somewhere in that range, I like to see at least 2 gallon per minute per acre, ideally 5.
Well, a few years ago, I ran into you at, I think it was the St. Joe Farm Show. And I had a crazy idea, and you didn't run off.
Really?
I know. And he didn't run off. And what it is, we had a farm that has a well on it, and we grew up drinking out of that well. Well, rural water came through, so the house was hooked up to there, and then the well was just kind of just there. It wasn't doing anything. And I thought, well, if we have an asset or have something, and maybe we could turn it into an asset and maybe use it. And I thought, well, let's do it. We've got the seed company. We've got the spot. I've got it. I can fertilize it and make it as good as we can. We just need water. So we looked at that, and our results weren't too good because you had me test the well to get that number. And I think I was at like point-something gallons of water recovery. It was a very sad, dark time for me after that.
I remember getting that phone call.
But, you know, you said that on that, you didn't like blow me off after that. You said, oh, well, I just need, you need a pond of some sort. So if a guy was to build a pond for irrigation, or maybe they've got some area that, you know, there's a pasture next to the farm and there's a big pond or structure there, how big of a pond do you really need for drip irrigation?
So our experience, we like to see 6 inches of water in the pond for the area you're going to cover. So to put that in terms that are easier to understand, if you had a 100-acre field and you wanted to apply 6 inches of water to that field in a year, that would be equivalent to 50 acre-feet of water. So if you boil that down, that's a 5-acre pond 10 foot deep, or a 10-acre pond 5 foot deep. Would be enough water to irrigate 100 acres.
Okay.
What is it, a pump or something? How does this go out through there? And then how do you fertigate through there with your fertilizers?
Right. So every system's going to be pressurized to 25 to 35 pounds of pressure to distribute the water. And then every system has a fertigation pump to inject the fertilizer in with the water and mix that in. It's all controlled through automation. You can look at it and run it from your phone, from your computer. You don't even have to be there to run it. So it's pretty high tech in the controls that are available.
So you can sit at the feed store and turn your irrigation on and off.
Yes, you can.
He's always looking for the easy way out.
I see this.
It's just not like a center pivot where, oh, you know that your seed guy's going out to the field, so then you turn the pivot on while he's out there. And I hope our Nebraska listeners and customers don't do that to me, but, you know.
You got to go up there soon.
I'll have to go up there, so I wouldn't put them past them thinking about that.
I would encourage him.
You would. Well, if they would have drip, and one question I was thinking about right now is we're talking about, you know, there's pivots and everybody drives by and they sees that, but they don't see the drip irrigation. I mean, you talked about very efficiency. What's your efficiency with drip versus a center pivot?
So it varies on the weather, but it's in the 20 to 30% more efficient is been quantified. But it really depends on what the humidity is, what the wind is, and how efficient the pivot has been set up. But it should be somewhere in that 20 to 30% more efficient.
And you don't have to worry about a tornado or something wrapping your pivot up into scrap metal.
That's correct. Yep.
It ain't going nowhere when it's in the ground.
It's not going anywhere.
How long does it last in there?
There's systems in western Kansas in the Colby area that have been in the ground for 29 years and they're still operating the way they were put in. So
Really?
as long as there's some maintenance done with it to keep it clean, we always monitor the quality of the water that's going into it. We filter it, so we make sure that we're not putting anything in there that's going to plug it up. And then there's some things we can do to kind of a preventive maintenance type of plan, just like changing the oil filter in your tractor. There's going to be some things to help keep it clean over the years, but it should be a long-term investment.
Sure. You mean like heavy mineral water or something like that? Is there some kind of chemicals you can add to it to help?
Right. So iron is probably the biggest enemy of drip. It can plug up the emitters. It can actually cause problems. But so we test the water ahead of time, and then we can put treatment systems on to remove the iron. Or if there was a little bit of iron got in there that we didn't know about, we can run some acid through to clean that out after the fact also.
That's with a well or a pond system, whatever.
Actually, we prefer the pond water because ponds will never have minerals in the water. There may be algae or silt in it, but that's much easier to filter out than minerals. So ponds are actually a cleaner source of water for us.
Okay.
So you would suggest Randy renting me a dozer so I could clean out my pond, and then we could do a trial out at my house, couldn't we?
I like your thinking.
I hit AgriGold up for it down at Columbia, but it wasn't. They weren't very receptive. So
About as much as I am.
I even said I just need a dozer rented. I don't need. I don't need them to do it or hire somebody. He said, just let me have the dozer or the track hoe and we'd get to it.
See what we deal with here,
I do.
Kurt.
I'm just trying to help you guys.
It's wonderful.
It's all in Brad's best interest.
It is. It is. But we'll come back and he'll share more with us here. We're going to sneak off again, and we'll do more when we come back to Bull Sessions on 680 KFEQ.